In an attempt to satisfy my curiosity about the Mother Earth News slogan, more than a magazine, a way of life, we came to this old warehouse just outside Hendersonville, North Carolina to find out what the magazine is really all about. It was deadline time for issue number 70. A number of people involved in the sophistication of the work bore little resemblance to what it must have been like back in January of 1970 when John and Jane Shuttleworth turned out Volume 1, Number 1. That issue was only a third as thick as the magazine is today. It had no color, and the only ads were for mail order seeds and plants, and oh yes, there was an ad for a grain mill which let you grind your own wheat into flour on your own kitchen table. The Shuttleworths defined their magazine as a bi-monthly publication, edited by and expressly for today's influential hip young adults, the creative people. They promised a heavy emphasis on alternative lifestyles, ecology, working with nature, and doing more with less. For membership in the Underground Press Syndicate with the national ad offices in Greenwich Village, the magazine, though, has grown now to offices in 5 major cities, as well as New York, and it's all wired together with the latest computer technology. Computers, though, can't do it all yet, especially here in the mailroom, where some 20,000 letters a week pour in. They contain everything from suggested story ideas to classifieds. They also contain requests for T-shirts, seeds, schematics, and a few complaints. John and Jane are now listed as founder and co-founder, and in the past few years, David Adams, Robert Lieb, and Bruce Woods have been the primary forces behind Mother Earth News' exceptional growth. And surprise of surprises, multinational corporations are now among the advertisers in this once strictly counterculture publication.
We've agonized over every new advertiser that's come in, I guess. And it has been a problem. It hasn't been a serious problem with our readership. I think it's been more of a problem for us here than it has for the readers. You know, our readers use, for instance, pickup trucks at least 3 times greater than the national norm. So the information is information that's valid to them. And we also make it clear that an advertisement in the book is not an endorsement. We do not accept ads for tobacco in any form, and we don't accept ads for oil companies. We've turned down a good bit of money from that.
But you will find ads ranging from Sesame Street's new storybook to Jack Daniels and how to pick $5 stocks that can explode. Among the more conventional ads, those for chainsaws, log cabins, pickup trucks, and tractors.
We have a good, strong rural readership, and we also have a fairly strong urban readership of people who are putting the kind of ideas that the magazine presents to use in whatever way they can in urban environments, some of them with the hope of eventually moving to the country, others without ever considering that, but just planning to make the best of what they have.
An independent research firm has reported Mother Earth News readers are in their mid-30s, family-oriented, with 83% owning their own homes. More than half have some college. Circulation's now estimated at more than 1 million copies per issue, and it has tripled in the last 4 years. But this remarkable recent growth has not changed the thrust of the articles.
In the first issue, it was stated that we would be taking a look at alternative energy technologies. And Lord knows, back in 1970, there weren't many people who figured that there was any need for alternative energy. Electricity was very inexpensive. Petroleum products were just dirt cheap compared to what we're paying today. And when that first issue came out and we announced that we'd be looking into the potential of methane, of solar energy, of wind power, we even caught a lot of flack from some of the environmentalists at the time saying, you know, that's just a pipe dream.
And solar power is still one of Mother's main topics. For the issue being prepared during our visit, a plowboy interview with solar plane designer Dr. Paul McCready was being ready. Mother not only has a complete photographic department now, but also radio and television studios, which crank out how-to audio and video cassettes on a variety of topics for those who still want to do more with less. Some 900 radio stations use the vignettes, according to a magazine spokesman. In fact, Mother's no longer just a magazine, but a communications network involving newspaper columns, travel and world tours, schematics and diagrams for project-like teepees to more permanent homes. And it's also a thriving mail order business with survival foods and other specialties, major items. Mother Earth News also does its own research here in this building and also out at Eco Village. Eco Village is a 600-acre watershed nestled in the Blue Ridge Mountains where ongoing experiments in self-sufficiency are being conducted and the knowledge shared with readers or workshop participants. Yep, Mother Earth even has its own hands-on training seminars. Certainly you've got a beautiful view here with the lake. Pull many fish out of it?
It's going to be getting a lot more fish in it coming up as soon as we get the snapping turtles cleared out of it.
John tells me the lake's man-made, but fed by mountain streams. And in addition to yielding fish, it's being used to yield power, too.
We've got 2,500 watts of power being produced here, and over my shoulder is the ability for us to make a grist mill and a water wheel that will also be running a wood craft shop. So this stream isn't very big, yet it's enough to power a good household plus a maintenance shop.
The grist mill's a log cabin and differs little from the ones built here in these mountains several centuries earlier.
Fill in the gaps with chinking and use your mortar technique. It's very well insulated this way because the walls are very thick. And in fact, we've found that this works not only for homes, but for any type of building whatsoever. As long as you've got the good trees around, which you do in this part of the country, it works very well.
You've used wood in some other interesting ways, too, besides just laying the logs horizontally.
You don't have to have long lumber. What we're doing here is taking short lengths of cordwood and being able to stack them. And it's an excellent technique for low skills. You just take mortar. Two people stacking firewood essentially makes you a wall. You can build around. In this case, we're making stables that will be able to have a good livestock program here. And it's a good insulation, very inexpensive.
I notice you've got earth piled up along the back as an insulator as well.
Right, that's, I think a lot of people are starting to realize that you don't have to go completely underground to get the benefits of earth shelter. If you just go ahead and pile some earth up against some of your north and west, east walls, this will provide very good insulation and be able to use that natural residual heat of the earth.
Cordwood Castle over there, I find that intriguing.
That is another way of using the cordwood production technique. You're just stacking firewood. What we're doing in that case is building round, and because we're building round with that, then we can more effectively utilize the earth berming techniques. In other words, pile that dirt up there on the back side of that. So it works very well that way, round or square.
You've got a dome that also uses the cordwood. That had to be a monster to build.
Yeah, that wound up taking us quite a bit of time to make all the front of that work very well. All those pieces of wood have to mesh together. But once we got the whole thing tied together with that tough plastic, that's been up over a year now, and we've had very good success.
Inside the dome's a hydroponics experiment. Plants are grown without as much soil or water as is traditional.
We're putting the nutrients into water, and then we're dripping very slowly this water into this matrix. So the amount of water being used is very slight, and we're recycling some of the water. The sunlight coming into it is fantastic. The back of the structure is very well earth sheltered, plus giving protection against the north winds.
Yeah, but in looking at that dome and looking at this valley here, I can't help but believe that if you'd take that plastic off, you'd have a natural-made band shell.
I think that the acoustics is probably every bit as good as the LA Bowl.
I couldn't help but wonder whether it was coincidental or good long-range planning that the campgrounds and the restroom facilities were close by. You could almost hear the music wafting through the valley.
There's a place I can get to where I'm safe from the city blues, and it's green and it's quiet. Only trouble was I had to buy it. I'll do anything I got to do, cut my hair and shine my shoes, keep on singing the blues if I can stay here. Johnny's garden.
Permaculture is the diverse aspect of gardening and using livestock together. It's in complete opposition to the American agricultural ideal where you take a whole field and plant nothing but corn. because what that does is it sets you up for insect problems, it sets you up for disease. If you can combine all the different plants working together, chickens and rabbits and pigs and cows and all this stuff working together, they're going to cultivate the earth, they're going to fertilize the earth together. These all work together to help each other, rid each other of the insect and disease problems. In fact, we find that insects don't become a problem because the insect population as a whole grows much bigger. So you have more spiders and ladybugs to take care of all the nasties that used to get at your tomatoes.
Sounds great, but what kind of yield are you getting? The proof, I guess, would be in that.
Well, the proof is very good because our yields are currently of the order of now, we're looking at a garden of about 20 by 30 feet that's going to provide enough food for a family of 4 for a year. Now, that's several times over the American agricultural yields that are currently being gotten. How we get that is by preparing the soil. A healthy soil gives healthy plants. And then with this diversification of animal and plant life all together, you get good, strong yields, and the taste is there. I think a lot of people have forgotten, really, how good organically grown natural produce can be.
The gardeners are living in the yurts. In spite of their contemporary, even futuristic look, the housing concept is ancient.
It dates back to the Mongolian yurt, which was canvas and erected by the nomads. They would take these things around and just spring them up in the middle of the desert. So you can get into the semi-permanent aspect of it, but the ones that we have here are very much permanent. It's the type of technique that holds itself together with an aircraft cable, and it's a tension device. It's not like any other supporting device used before. Some of these can be built as little as $500, and the techniques can be used by just about anybody who has had no previous building experience. We found that wind power is very good to get into. It can provide good sources of electricity for you. In fact, we've got the yurts being powered off the wind power now. What's nice...
All of the electricity in the yurt is being...
That's right, and the whole battery packs in the bottom end of the yurt are doing a very good job for that. In fact, the older wind power plants made by Mr. Jacobs back in the 30s are the best ones. In fact, that's a recycled one we've got. We just redid the shaft and tightened up the bearings and gave it a new coat of paint, and it's working like a charm. Look.
What do we have here, John?
This is a simply built wooden pump that's run by water power. It's pumping the water power on back up the hill. We're storing it, and it provides the water supply system for the yurts. This is one of several houses that will eventually be utilizing mostly passive techniques. In other words, not having a whole lot of blowers and fans and this sort of thing, but using the natural heat and the natural transference of heat through the thick walls or stored up in rock and this sort of thing. Being able to use that natural massive shelter. And we're looking at probably providing ourselves with 80% of our energy from the sun and maybe 20% backup from a little bit of wood. If you're looking for some ways to go energy efficient with new homes, we feel that going into the earth partially, not into a cave, they can be into the side of a hill or partially earth shelter as the barn is.
That's where the cheap property is these days anyway, right?
That's where the cheap property is. You've got the ability to pay a little bit of money for sloping land or for actually pretty steep land and build into the side. You shelter yourself from the north wind and you open up the entire south to the sun. It gives you the heat and the warmth. And in fact, we're actually going to find this house will be also solar cooled in many ways too.
And what's in the future for Mother Earth News and Eco Village?
It's going to be sort of like a Disney World where people can come in and ooh and ah at all the things, but not only can they just look at them, but we're going to take the entire staff of the magazine and have them planted here by each one of the experiments. So if you want to know how to make a wind power tower, there's somebody there to talk to you about it. If you want to know how to make some of these homes, there's somebody there. This is important because it continues our education process started off with the magazine. We've done our homework. We know that the alternative energies work. We're looking at the 80s is the time to actually start doing this.
I'll do anything I got to do. Cut my hair and shine my shoes. Keep on singing the blues if I can stay here. Johnny's garden.